You ever get that gut feeling like the universe is trying to tap you on the shoulder and whisper, "Hey, buddy, brace yourself"? Yeah, that was me on a Tuesday night, sitting in my car outside a restaurant I didn't remember agreeing to. Ashley, my wife, had called it a serious talk over dinner. Romantic, right? I should have known better when she picked the place. It had white tablecloths, chandeliers, and menu prices that made my debit card sweat. I walked in anyway. "Logan," she said sweetly when I reached the table. "This is Chase. You've heard me mention him from work." He was already sitting, sipping wine like a villain in a B-movie, tight black shirt, smug grin, hair too perfect. Her hand? A little too close to his thigh. My instincts didn't just whisper. They screamed. "Nice to meet you," Chase said, looking me dead in the eye. "Ashley and I have been meaning to talk to you." I forced a smile. My fists were clenched under the table. "About what?" Ashley exhaled like she was about to deliver a eulogy. "We didn't want to do this like cowards. I'm leaving you, Logan. I'm with Chase now." Silence. Then Chase, the hero of this love triangle, leaned in and added, "We just wanted to be honest." "You deserve that." I stared at him, then her. My voice was calm, almost surgical. "Honesty? That's rich coming from the guy touching another man's wife under a linen tablecloth." Ashley's eyes narrowed. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." I stood, pushed my chair back so slow it squeaked like a suspense violin. "Let me guess, you wanted this to be mature, civilized, maybe even amicable." Chase raised his hands. "We don't have to be enemies." I grinned. "That depends. Do enemies usually leave with all their teeth?" Ashley gasped. "Logan." But I was already walking out. Not because I was the bigger man, but because I had a bigger plan. The ride home was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence where even the air seems to be holding its breath. I didn't turn on the radio, just stared straight ahead and let the headlights carve a path through the dark. When I walked into our house, my house, technically, it hit me. Her perfume still lingered, but it wasn't hers alone. No, there was something new. Musky, arrogant. The kind of cologne that thinks it owns the room before it even enters. I headed straight to the bedroom. The bed was perfectly made, tight hospital corners and all. Ashley hadn't made a bed in years. I sat down on the edge and looked around. Everything was in its place. Too much in its place. My phone buzzed. "Ashley, you didn't have to make a scene." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "I'm sorry." Just blame, packaged and delivered with emoji-free efficiency. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the nightstand drawer. Buried beneath old birthday cards and a tangled mess of charger cables was the folder. Manila. Unmarked. I'd been building it for months. Screenshots. Bank records. Hotel invoices. A spreadsheet titled Ashley's Greatest Hits, because if I couldn't laugh, I'd scream. I never wanted to believe I'd use it. I wanted to be wrong. I wasn't. The next morning, she came home like it was just another Thursday. Wore yoga pants, no yoga mat. Hair tied up, fake casual. "Logan," she said, breezing past me. "We should talk." "Oh, now we're talking?" She dropped her keys in the dish by the door. "I didn't mean for you to find out that way." "You mean in a restaurant, over risotto, with your boyfriend smirking across the table?" "Yeah, very subtle." Ashley rolled her eyes. "Chase isn't just some fling, right?" I said. "He's your future. And I'm the guy you're discarding like last year's iPhone." "You're being dramatic." I stared at her for a long moment. "And you're being recorded." That made her flinch. Because what she didn't know, yet, was that the camera in the living room wasn't just for show. I'd upgraded it after the first late-night text I wasn't supposed to see. Paranoia? Maybe. Or maybe intuition finally sharpening its claws. "Smile, Ashley," I said, walking to the console where the feed saved to the cloud. "You're gonna be a star." It's a strange feeling, watching your own marriage rot on a 1080p screen. There she was, Ashley, laughing on the couch 2 nights ago. Wearing my hoodie, drinking my bourbon, and curled up next to Chase like it was his house. He kissed her. She kissed back. Then they toasted. To what? I don't know. Maybe to me being an idiot. She said, "He'll never know." He said, "Doesn't matter. He's weak." I hit pause. You ever hear a sound that doesn't exist? Like your soul cracking in your chest? That's what betrayal sounds like. I spent the next 2 hours in lawyer mode. Not that I'm a lawyer, but I had enough evidence now to make one drool. I emailed it all to myself, backed it up twice, and made a thumb drive labeled in case of stupid. Ashley walked in later, holding a smoothie like she was on break from yoga class. She didn't look at me. just hummed a tune and walked past like we were roommates who barely spoke. I cleared my throat. We need to talk about the house. She paused. What about it? I want it. Her smile was smug. That's cute, but you'll be out in a month. I already talked to a lawyer. So did I said, sliding the thumb drive across the counter. Mine's better. And hungrier. She didn't pick it up, just stared. What's this? She asked. Insurance, I said. Proof. Evidence. You know truth. Her face went pale for the first time since this whole thing started. She opened it. Her jaw clenched. Then, without even watching the full video, she said, You wouldn't. I would, I replied. And I will. You're bluffing. I leaned in just enough for her to smell the calm on me. Ashley, I want you to imagine Chase explaining to his boss why he's featured in a home security tape called The House Guest Who Couldn't Keep It in His Pants. Her hand trembled. This wasn't rage. This was war. And unlike her, I didn't need a new man. I just needed a plan. Ashley didn't say a word. Not when she finished watching the security footage. Not when I told her I'd be taking a personal retreat for a few days. And certainly not when I left the house with nothing but a duffel bag and a smirk that said, You'll miss this silence. I wasn't running away. I was laying low strategically. See, people think revenge is loud. It's not. Real revenge is quiet, patient. Like planting a tree you know will one day fall directly on someone's brand new convertible. I booked a small cabin outside town. No cell service. No internet. Just trees, a lake, and the sound of someone slowly, methodically becoming untouchable. I brought my laptop, my documents, and a bottle of bourbon older than our marriage. That night, I drafted a letter to Ashley's lawyer. Dear counsel, please be advised that my client possesses indisputable evidence of an extramarital affair occurring within the marital home. Said evidence, both digital and physical, renders your client's claims to the property, assets, and spousal support not only laughable, but legally vulnerable. I stopped, smiled, hit save. Then I did something strange. I sat on the porch and watched the stars. It had been years since I looked up and actually saw anything other than spreadsheets, calendar alerts, in the back of Ashley's phone. Out here, with nothing but frogs chirping and wind rustling through trees, I started to feel something that had eluded me for months. Control. The next morning, I called Kyle, my best friend, and the guy who tipped me off to the Crystal Globe disaster. The man had eyes sharper than a hawk and a loyalty that ran deeper than blood. Kyle, I said, I need you to do something. Is this about the footage? He asked. It's about the ending, I said. I'm rewriting it. A pause. Then that classic Kyle laugh. God, I've missed this version of you. What do you need? I need you to dig into Chase Donovan. Everything. Job, taxes, past addresses, ex-girlfriends, unpaid parking tickets. I want to know what cereal he eats and if he cries during insurance commercials. Kyle didn't even blink. Give me 2 days. I spent the rest of the day compiling my second gift to Ashley, a detailed financial review. Because while she was busy playing house with Mr. Hair Gel, I'd been quietly moving money. Legally. Strategically. Our joint checking account? Drained, after paying off my half of the mortgage, a stack of utilities, and a lovely Ashley and Chase welcome basket of unpaid bills. My personal savings? Intact. My crypto wallet? Flourishing. My retirement? Untouched. Ashley had always managed the household budget. She liked control. But I managed the investments, the taxes, the long game. And in the long game, I've been planning for winter since spring. That evening, I checked my email. Kyle had delivered. Subject line, Chase Donovan, clown in a suit. There were attachments. Many. Turns out, Chase wasn't just a smug pretty boy. He was a smug pretty boy with a shaky employment history, 2 pending lawsuits from former clients, and a record of borrowing large amounts of money from the women he dated. Ladies and gentlemen, we had a winner. I leaned back in the cabin chair and laughed so hard I startled a squirrel off the railing. It all clicked now. Ashley thought she had traded up, but all she'd done was jump out of a luxury car and into a flaming clown wagon. And I was going to let her ride it straight off the cliff. Not by screaming. Not by fighting. By handing her the keys. The next morning, I drafted another message, this time directly to her. Ashley, I've decided to agree to the divorce. You can have Chase. You can even have the bed you desecrated. But I will be keeping the house, my business, and the dignity you misplaced somewhere between his pocket and your lack of judgment. Attached are copies of everything your lawyer will need to confirm I'm being generous. And attached below that, a file. The one you pretended didn't exist. You're welcome to forward it to Chase's HR department. Consider this closure. The kind you don't come back from. Logan. I hit send. Then I turned off my phone, poured a drink, and watched the sunrise. Funny thing about revenge, it doesn't always look like fireworks or slam doors. Sometimes, it's just a man sitting on a porch, watching the world keep spinning, knowing he's not broken, just reborn. The email had barely been out in the wild for 6 hours before the fallout began. I knew because when I drove back into town, my phone, dead from the digital detox, lit up like a Christmas tree getting tasered. 30 missed calls. Texts from Ashley, her lawyer, Kyle, my sister, even our old neighbor who once forgot my name but never forgot gossip. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I pulled into the driveway of my house. It still smelled like jasmine and poor choices. Ashley's car wasn't there. Chase's wasn't either, thank God, or I might have dented his hood with poetic justice. I walked inside and found chaos. Not the fun, hurricane after-a-party chaos. The kind where someone ransacked drawers hoping to find something they swore they had better. Half the spice rack was on the floor. My books were pulled off the shelf like she thought I had money inside a copy of The Count of Monte Cristo. Amateur. I poured myself a coffee from the pot she forgot to clean out, still half full, bitter, and stale, kind of like her apology texts. The silence was short-lived. My phone buzzed again. I finally picked up, if only for entertainment. Ashley, what did you do? No hello. No pretense. I sipped my coffee. Nice to hear your voice, too. You had no right. I had every right, I interrupted. You just didn't think I had the guts. Her voice dropped to that fake calm tone she used when trying to haggle with customer service. You don't know what this will do to Chase. His job, his reputation. I chuckled. Ashley, you blew up a marriage for a con man with a skincare routine. Cry me a river. There was a pause. The sound of her pride cracking. You've always been petty, she hissed. You never could handle not being in control. That's rich coming from the woman who tried to stage a breakup like a red carpet reveal, I replied. You want to be with him? Be with him. Just don't expect me to bankroll your delusions. Then I hung up. 3 hours later, her lawyer called mine. I let them hash it out. Apparently, Chase had been let go from his position earlier that morning. HR didn't appreciate being blindsided with footage of one of their marketing leads conducting extracurricular activities in another man's home. His ex-girlfriend had also reached out to me, through my lawyer, thanking me for exposing his pattern. Apparently, she'd been building a civil case against him for unpaid debts and manipulation. The internet, as it turns out, doesn't forget, especially when you post receipts. That evening, I found myself at Kyle's place. He handed me a cold beer and clinked his bottle against mine. To scorched earth, he said with a grin. I smirked. And better gardening after. We sat on the porch, watching dusk settle over the neighborhood. She really thought she had the upper hand, Kyle muttered. Man, the nerve to try and play you like that. She wasn't playing me, I said. She was playing herself. I just hit record. He laughed and shook his head. You're colder than I remember. I'm not cold, I said. I'm just clear. We watched a pair of kids ride their bikes past the house, wobbling with joy and zero balance. For a second, I envied that freedom. No obligations, no betrayal, just forward motion and scraped knees. Kyle handed me a folder. What's this? Everything you asked for, he said. Financials, socials, old flings, even an abandoned Reddit account. Dude's a walking PR disaster. Oh, and you'll love this. He pulled out a color printout of a dating profile. Chase is back on the market already. Look what he lists under career aspirations. I read it aloud. Aspiring life coach. We both erupted. He's got the ambition of a broken microwave, Kyle said between laughs. Eventually, we sobered up, but not by much. You okay? He asked. I nodded. Getting there. This isn't grief. It's just cleanup. What about her? Kyle asked. I leaned back. Let her live with the choices she made. I'm not here to clean up her mess. I'm just making sure it doesn't spill onto my shoes. Later that night, I returned home and opened my laptop. The emails had slowed, but one stuck out. Subject, you win. It was from Ashley. Logan. You made your point. You embarrassed me. You humiliated him. Is that what you wanted? To win? Well, congratulations. You win. You get the house. The lawyer says I should give up the claim before things get worse. So I'm out. I hope it was worth it. Ashley. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then, without replying, I archived the email. Not because I didn't have anything to say, But because silence, when you're right, is louder than any mic drop. The morning after Ashley's "you win" email, I woke up to birds chirping, sunlight filtering through the blinds, and the delightful absence of chaos. No chase. No wine glasses in the sink. No passive-aggressive sticky notes about being more emotionally present. Just quiet. It was the kind of peace that felt earned, like the first good breath after holding your head underwater too long. I made pancakes, bad ones. The kind that stick to the pan and look more like abstract art than breakfast. But they were mine, and they tasted like freedom. That week became the beginning of what I called the Reconstruction era. My therapist would have been proud if I had one. I started small, canceled the couple's wine club Ashley signed us up for, donated her yoga DVDs to the thrift store, and finally threw away the scented candles labeled romance that had been taunting me from the mantel. The house began to feel like mine again. One morning, while taking out the trash, I ran into Margaret, the retired widow next door who knew more about the neighborhood than Google Maps and the CIA combined. She gave me a knowing look over the hedge. "So, she's finally gone?" I nodded, wheeling the trash bin to the curb. "She's gone." Margaret leaned in like a spy exchanging state secrets. "Good. She always looked at you like you were a utility bill she forgot to cancel." I blinked. "That's oddly specific." "Well," she said, adjusting her visor, "I watch people. And I always said, you deserved better." Margaret then handed me a pie. Blueberry. Still warm. "From my garden," she added. "Enjoy it before some other woman tries to burn your world down." The Reconstruction era, it turns out, had pie. That afternoon, I opened an envelope from Ashley's lawyer confirming that she'd forfeited her claim on the house and assets and had no further interest in contesting any part of the agreement. It was dry legal language, but it read like a symphony to me. I took the signed papers, framed them, and hung them in the laundry room, because nothing says moving on like filing betrayal next to the fabric softener. That evening, Carl came by again, this time with a bottle of scotch and a grin that said he'd been holding something back. "What?" I asked, already suspicious. "You remember that burner Reddit account Chase had?" "Yeah." He posted again. Kyle pulled out his phone, scrolled, and read aloud. "Nothing hurts more than being betrayed by people you thought loved you. Some men will ruin your life just because they can't keep a woman. Some women will pretend to love you and still be loyal to their past. I gave her everything. I was the better man. But the world doesn't reward truth. It rewards cruelty." I sipped my scotch. Wow, so poetic. Did he quote Nickelback next? Kyle laughed. "He's imploding in real time." Got roasted in the comments. Someone replied, "Maybe if you didn't sleep with married women, karma wouldn't sleep with you." "Touché," I said. "Remind me to send that commenter a fruit basket." But deep down, I felt something strange. Not satisfaction. Not even revenge. Just the clean slate of indifference. Letting go doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives like a stranger at your door, quiet and final. That weekend, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Then curiosity got the better of me. Message. "Hi, Logan. It's Melanie. From college. I heard, well, everything. You were always the kind of guy who deserved more than most people realized. I'm back in town for a bit. Thought maybe we could catch up coffee, maybe." I stared at the phone. Melanie. The one who wrote in my yearbook, "If things were different." The one who once slow danced with me at a wedding and whispered, "I shouldn't be feeling this, but I do." I hadn't thought about her in years. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to start thinking about what comes after the storm. I didn't call her back right away. Not because I wasn't interested, but because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't chasing anything. I was just living. That night, I walked through the house with all the lights on, just because I could. I took off my shoes in the hallway, played music Ashley hated, left a pile of laundry on the chair without shame. It was chaos, and it was beautiful. And as I stood there in the living room, barefoot, with scotch in one hand and the music of my own life playing, I realized I didn't win. I just stopped losing. Melanie and I met for coffee. No sparks, no fireworks. Just comfort. Familiarity. She asked what happened, and I told her the truth, stripped of drama. She said, "You didn't deserve that." I smiled. I didn't, but I survived it. After that, we kept talking. Just talking. It felt strange to speak to someone who wasn't trying to spin, twist, or sell a narrative. She didn't want anything from me, just to listen. That was more healing than I expected. But healing doesn't mean ghosts stay buried. 1 week later, Ashley showed up at the house. I opened the door slowly, coffee mug in hand. She looked different, tired. Makeup tried to hide it, but I could see it. Guilt wearing her face like a bad disguise. I left my necklace, she said quietly. The silver one. In the upstairs drawer. I stepped aside. Upstairs. Second drawer. You know the way. She walked in slowly, eyes scanning the home like it no longer recognized her either. She stopped near the kitchen and said, "You've changed things." "Yeah," I said. "It's mine now." Ashley nodded. Then, with a brittle smile, "I thought this would feel different." "How so?" "Like a victory," she said. "But it doesn't. It feels like I lost something I didn't know I valued." I leaned against the counter. "You didn't lose it. You gave it away." There was silence. She retrieved her necklace, held it like it might still love her. "If you ever." "No," I cut in. "There's no second act here. This isn't a soap opera. This is the credits rolling." Ashley looked down. "He's gone, by the way." "I know," I said. "I sent him packing." She gave me a final look. "You were always stronger than I thought." I nodded. "You were always weaker than you pretended." She left. That was the last time I saw her. After Ashley's exit, life moved on. My world didn't collapse, it expanded. I reconnected with people I hadn't seen in years. Kyle got me into hiking. Margaret next door roped me into the neighborhood watch and a weirdly competitive pie contest. Melanie became a fixture in my world. No pressure, no labels, just companionship. Someone who didn't care about my bank account or my baggage. One night, I asked her why she never called after college. She smiled and said, "You weren't ready back then." And neither was I. I didn't ask more. Some answers don't need exploring. Around that time, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. "Logan, you were right. About all of it. I thought I could find something new, something exciting. But I found empty instead. I know you won't forgive me. That's fine. I'm not asking for redemption. I'm just saying sorry. For the first time and the last." Hey, I burned the letter in the fireplace. Not out of anger, but as a ceremony. A letting go. The flame curled the paper into ash. And with it, the last of the weight I'd been carrying. Months passed. I found myself laughing more. Sleeping better. Eating worse, sure, but with joy. Freedom has calories, and I was finally indulging. One night, Melanie and I sat on the porch, watching the stars. She turned to me and said, "What would you have done differently?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "Nothing." She looked surprised. "Nothing. I needed the betrayal," I said. It broke the version of me that kept making excuses, that let comfort become captivity. It taught me how to set fire to what doesn't serve me. She nodded slowly. "So what now?" I took her hand. "Now," I said, "now we build something worth keeping." 1 year to the day after the restaurant ambush, I sat at that same table. Alone. New suit. Fresh haircut. Calm heart. The waiter, same guy, recognized me. "Sir, you want the same table?" I smiled. "Yeah, let's run it back." He chuckled. "You look different." "I am." Midway through my meal, I pulled out a small, neatly folded piece of paper. Not a revenge plan. Not a lawsuit. A to-do list. My new one. Start over, but better. Trust your gut. Laugh more. Never let the past drive the car again. Live loud. Love quiet. Finish what you started. I folded it back up. Across the room, a couple laughed. Young. In love. No idea what's coming. I didn't envy them. I respected them. Because they still had the chance to choose wisely. As I left the restaurant, the host said, "You seem like someone who got the last laugh." I smiled. Not the last. Just the best one. And I walked out. Into my life. On my terms. With both hands free, and nothing left to carry.